All right, welcome to NEXTcast, a podcast talking about high school basketball. And today, it is my honor to have Ted Emrich join us. Ted Emrich is my partner at ESPN on the high school scene for a long time now. I know the cliche rising star is used a lot, but this guy is a star in the making. I've already blessed him in that category, so he does a lot of big games for ESPN, not just all the high school games, but college games. He did the James Wiseman game where James was declared ineligible, and that made ESPN news nationwide, and handled it with confidence, knowledge, and grace. Ted, welcome to the NEXTcast podcast.
I love it. Paul, as always, you are way too kind. I've missed you, man. We missed out on Geico Nationals earlier this year, and of course, in the next few weeks, we should be going to Augusta, Georgia, North Augusta, South Carolina for the Peach Jam. That it's unfortunate how things have worked out this year. 2020 is certainly not my favorite year, but what do you always say? Recruiting never sleeps. The rankings certainly never sleep. So I'm excited to be on with you, man.
Zach, you've been stuck up there in Michigan. What have you been doing during this Corona time?
Oh, man, a little bit of everything. Just staying busy, trying not to sweat too much with the humidity and all that. But, yeah, just like you guys, waiting for it all to come back. And it looks like in some places we're either there or getting close. So, yeah, ready to catch you guys back on the court as soon as possible.
Well, since we actually were last all together, the rankings did come out in May. We launched 2021, 2022, and yes, the much anticipated class of 2023. Ted, you're always asking me, okay, a guy's going to move up, who's going to make the all-elevator team, who's going to be number one? Have you had a chance to look at the new rankings? And if you did, what did you think about 2021 as we enter a whole new class?
The first thing that struck me, just seeing the name at the very top, Chet Holmgren, and just reflecting on how he has developed just in 2+ years, I think it's so much fun with the package of games that we get a chance to do at the high school level. You get to see kids improve year after year. You get to see kids grow. And it's one thing for kids at a Montverde or an Oak Hill, the schools that we're going to see year in and year out and multiple times a year. Those upper echelon programs, listen, they're there for a reason, and we see those kids a bunch. It's another to see tiny little mini Ha-Ha Academy in Minneapolis. But I remember 2 years ago, we were in Minneapolis for a game between Minnehaha and Apple Valley. And at that point, it was billed as Jalen Suggs, who was a sophomore then, of course, headed to Gonzaga now, class of 2020, top 10 player in the country, against Trey Jones, of course, starred at Duke. Chet Holmgren was a freshman then, 6'8", 155 pounds. And his coach, Lance Johnson, told us, now, frame aside, this kid's going to be a special player. But to see where Chet was then, this gangly freshman with a little bit of skill, develop into what we saw this past year, last January, leading a victory over Sierra Canyon in front of 18,000 people at the Target Center, and Holmgren dominated the interior at the defensive end. Had 12 blocks, 10 rebounds, that rare kind of double-double. Jalen Suggs was great too. But it's just so cool to see a kid make that kind of jump from his freshman to his junior year, and now being the number one player in the country headed into his senior season.
No, that's so well said. And Zach here is a master at the highlights. I think the best highlight for me last year was that block that Chet had on Harold Yu. Harold Yu, 7'3", going up, trying to dunk it, lay it in, and there comes Chet from the weak side with just a beautiful block, nothing but leather. Zach, did he not have a triple-double or close to it? I think 10 blocks, 12 rebounds, 9 points. Is that right?
That's not, yeah. Did you say I think 12 blocks was that what you said, Ted?
I thought it was
I
10
think,
blocks.
I think that's what he had. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, we showed them all. That was yeah, and it wasn't just one-on-one. It was like what you said, coming from the weak side, maybe even like a jumper from the free. I mean, he's as versatile. I mean, that's what makes him one of those guys. But the thing I like most, and I remember seeing this a lot, especially with grassroots Sizzle, his AAU club, was just a ton of emotion after things. I mean, he's not afraid to get in some guy's face and let him hear it and talk. And I love seeing that in a guy.
Yeah, two things about Chet. Adam Finkelstein, who's a great scout with us at ESPN. Adam saw Chet a couple of years ago in the summer. Same thing you saw and I saw, Ted, on the high school scene. But he saw him in the AAU circuit. He said, guys, this kid is really skinny, but he's really skilled. And just because he's skinny, he's still tough. Like, he has a toughness about him, and he works hard. Now, he gets beat up, he gets banged around, but I think he's going to be special. Adam Finkelstein was the first person to actually tell me that he thought he could be special. And lo and behold, he's number one in the class. I went out to the big-time tournament in Las Vegas last summer. Zach, you were there.
Yep.
Grassroots Sizzle, Ted, was practicing at 9 p.m. West Coast time. So that's midnight for me. So we're pushing my bedtime right now, or a glass of wine, one of the two. Practice is over. Chet continues to stay on the court and work on his shooting, his dribble pull-up game, all these shots for at least another half hour. I'm sitting there waiting to talk to him, but he's just going through a routine of shots. And I told him, I'm in no hurry. Do what you want to do, and I'll watch it. I mean, he shot for 45 minutes after, and it was real shooting, game-like shooting. It's no surprise to me that, he's number one because of his ridiculous height, his wingspan, a 7-footer with a 3 or 4 wingspan. Tremendous skills. I can't remember skills on a guy this big, this tall before. He just needs to add some weight, some balance. And, he's truly one of the guys, I think, in high school basketball that dominates the game or impacts the game on both ends of the floor.
And Zach and Paul, remember, just from a pure highlight perspective, he really landed on a lot of people's radar. I mean, beyond coaches' radars, but those who love to follow high school basketball and recruiting and who is next, of course. Last summer, when he crossed up Steph Curry at Curry's own camp out west. I mean, just again, picturing that, this 7-footer crossing up Steph Curry, and Curry, all he could do was laugh. I'm just watching that highlight, and it's still up, got a ton of views, of course. It's so much fun to see his offensive game now begin to flourish, because at the defensive end, he's already a force.
I mean, he's a world-class shot blocker. So he's number one, but this isn't cut and dry. I mean, last year, you think about 2020, we had Cade Cunningham, Evan Mobley, Jalen Green, all jockeying for that number one spot. I know Evan Mobley held it for a while, and then Jalen Green kind of snipped them at the end and took that top spot. But any one of those guys are number one players. I think in this class, 2021, Chet is number one right now based on a lot of factors, but you got Pat Baldwin. In my mind, he's the best shooter in the high school game. He's 6'9", a small forward out of Wisconsin. His dad is Pat Baldwin Sr., the head coach at Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Right behind him is Paolo Banchero, big fella. I mean, he is so fundamentally sound from the West Coast up in Seattle. I mean, he really is skilled, strong, and smart at 6'9". And then number 4 is Jaden Hardy. I mean, Hardy gets a lot of comparisons to Bradley Beal. I'm not so sure that that's a good comparison for him. He's got that combination game, doesn't shoot it like Bradley Beal, of course. But Jaden Hardy has tremendous upside in the game, and I think right now he's still developing that balance between the point guard spot and the 2-guard spot. I think those 4 guys, and I want you guys to weigh in, are my number one challenges for Chet. Those guys all have a chance to be number one.
I think similar to when you're watching during a football or basketball season, and because the Pac-12 happens late at night for a lot of people in the country, you don't always see what happens in the West Coast time zone, Pacific Coast time zone. And so I feel like maybe people have not seen Paolo Banchero play as much as maybe they've seen some of these others, especially, from O'Day. Man, he's a lot of fun to watch too, because he's built like it and he's tall. He shoots, I think, pretty well. But the thing that sticks out about him, that I think at least, and again, I'm part of that too, not being from the West Coast, as I haven't seen him a ton, but he's one of the best passing big men I've seen in this class. Again, not that I've seen everyone or that I've seen these guys as much as you have, but I would agree with that. And after you give your 2 cents here, Ted, I'm curious, Paul, what you think about number 5, Jabari, because he's a guy who I feel like doesn't get a lot of the attention, and he's definitely someone that is really going to come onto the scene, and people are definitely going to know who he is by the end of the year. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk about him in a second. I want to get Ted's take maybe and thoughts of the guys right behind Chet.
Yeah, and I'll just be upfront. I haven't seen Baldwin or Banchero in person yet. I can't wait to see them, especially just we get an early look at our schedule for our showcase games on ESPN this coming season, and it looks like we will see a bunch of them, especially Polo. I can't wait to see him and O'Day this coming season. I'm curious, Paul, and you can dovetail the comment about Tabari Smith with this, but you brought it up briefly for 2020, how narrow the gap was between Jalen Green, Cade Cunningham, Evan Mobley, 1, 2, 3. What is that gap like right now as we head into the summer with Chet Holmgren at the top and followed by Baldwin, Paulo, so on and so forth in that top 5?
Yeah, when I look at Chet all the way to Jalen Hardy, I look at that gap as the same as Jalen Green, Cade Cunningham, and Evan Mobley. It's tight. Any one of these guys could take over the number 1 spot with a great season, per se, whether it's the summer, finishing the summer strong. We're going to be out in July, August, and September, because there's going to be events. Even though the NCAA is not letting the coaches out, people are still having events, and all these guys are going to be playing. So we'll have a chance to see those guys late in July, some of August, and September is going to be a big evaluation month. Any one of those guys could take over that spot. If Chet lets his guard down for some reason, or he doesn't perform in the same fashion, he doesn't have that same approach and attitude, one of those other guys certainly has the talent to take over the number 1 spot. So it's going to be exciting for us, Ted, because we don't know who's going to be a clear-cut number 1 like you have in the class of 2022. Imani Bates, we had him on the NEXTcast, and this guy is scary good. And I don't like to give a lot of praise out to young guys too early, but I keep going through the list, and I keep looking at all the guys who come out of the high school game. And when I saw them early, I can't remember a guy that has impressed me as much as Imani Bates as an underclassman since LeBron James.
Well, the thing that's and I knew this when I asked him the question, though, but maybe you haven't seen the video, but when Imani said he hit 70 shots in a row just in practice is crazy to me. But the fact that the number 2, Jalen Duren, and he might be a number 1 in any other class, right, if you've seen him play. So that just speaks even more volume to what Imani brings. But, a guy like him, it's hard to find a weakness, I think, because usually you can do that with any player. But that's why he's got, as what it seems like now, a pretty much unstoppable move with that hesitation. He's so fluid with the ball and being so tall and quick on the one step. It's given every single player he's played against fits. And when you have a go-to killer move like that, backed up by his aggressiveness, his assertiveness, I mean, he said it when we talked with him. He said, how do you describe your game? He said, I'm a killer, and that's it. So it's like when you make that combo, add in his, how much he works at it and all that, it's easy. I mean, I wasn't really on the recruiting scene when LeBron was in high school, but that's
you're in diapers then. You're in diapers.
Yeah, exactly.
It's fascinating to me when we get to see these kids handle the hype at such an early age, right? Zion Williamson had to do it, a few years back. And he did it with such grace, with such poise, and he continues to do so. And Imani Bates is halfway through his high school career. That is mind-boggling. And think of all the attention that has already been devoted to him, how he has handled that, how he and his family have already handled that. On top of that, the speculation about, will he get to jump directly to the NBA? Will the one and done rule be gone by the time he graduates from high school? And it's still a question mark, certainly. But I can't wait to see him in person, and just getting the early look at our ESPN high school basketball schedule. We will certainly get to see him multiple times. So that will be a lot of fun.
Well, let me jump back for 1 second, because you talked about handling the pressure of the attention that these kids get. And Zach, you asked about Tabari Smith. And let me just say this about Tabari Smith. Polished, mature, handles the attention with humbleness. And he's 6'9", has ridiculous offensive skills at 6'9". He has that small forward game and that power forward body. And the game just flows for him. He's very fluid. But when you speak to him, okay, on my other podcast, the High School Happenings podcast, because I have 2 podcasts now during
You're big time. You're big time.
I have to find something to do. But Tabari Smith is a guy that, Ted, you're going to love when you get a chance to interview him. And Zach, I don't know if you've met him already, but this kid just approaches everything with a work ethic, a teachable spirit, and a humbleness. And he knows that he's really good in the game, but he also knows he has to get better. And he doesn't take any of this recruiting for granted. He told us that Georgia Tech are really on him the hardest. Can he contend for the number 1 spot? Maybe sitting there at number 5. You could say the same thing about Michael Foster, who's, right there as well. I mean, he's 6'9". He's real powerful and skilled. So it seems like this class is full of 2021 skill, finesse, skill, power, great size, the new wave type of player. But that's my point on Tabari Smith. But Imani Bates, he hasn't gotten the hype yet, as much as, say, like a Mikey Williams in 2023 or, DJ Wagner in 2023. That's the class that's getting all the hype. They're really good players, but Imani Bates, not only the best player in 2022, I wrote this on ESPN.com, top 25 prospects, regardless of class, Imani Bates number 1.
And you said that, I remember in January, when he was still a sophomore in high school. And I remember we were in Minneapolis and we showed that graphic, right? I think it was top 10 regardless of class. And Paul, I'll never forget, you said there are a lot of kids who get that Kevin Durant comparison. And it's unfounded. It's unfair to the player. It fits in this case. It's okay to say that. Just at this stage, where he is, to say that Imani Bates reminds you of KD, has a skill set that is comparable to KD, you can say that, and it is not overreaching your bounds. So that is really, really exciting.
I went on record. I mean, he's the closest thing that I've ever seen to Kevin Durant, and he's the best prospect as an underclassman that I've ever seen compared to LeBron. You can't get more praise than that. All right, let's pick up now on class of 2023, which is by far the biggest class when it comes to social media. You have Mikey Williams, who has millions, LeBron James Jr., Bronny James, more millions. And then DJ Wagner, who's the number one player in 2023.
I think people weren't too surprised because it's the only, it's the first time coming out. But it is going to be debated. It's going to be a hot topic, just given when you talk about social media, you have more Mikey Williams fans than you do probably anyone else, save for Bronny. But when you're talking about who the top 25 players are, that might be a little bit of what kind of not clouds of judgment when you're trying to evaluate a player. But so I think for that reason alone, some people were maybe taken a little bit off guard that he wasn't the go-to number one. But those people are also might not have seen DJ Wagner, and that's okay. But he is everything that you would want in a guy, is he not, as far as sophomores go?
Oh, no question. I mean, Mikey Williams is a great player, and DJ Wagner is as well. You know, there's a little gap between them, but not much. But, Ted, I want to pose it to you. You saw Bronny James. How many times did we have him last year? 8, 10 times?
At least, right. Didn't we have almost all of Sierra Canyon's schedule? It's like we were the home broadcast.
Yeah, we were the team at Sierra Canyon. I mean, and you were pumping me during the broadcast. You wanted to know if Bronny James is going to be ranked. And,
yeah,
rightfully
and he
so.
is.
And he is. And so what's your thought? I know you haven't seen the players in 2023, but when you watch Bronny James play, you see that he's ranked in the top 25 in his class. What's your thoughts?
I think it's absolutely fair. I know you probably want me to get contentious and ask you why he's not a top 10 player right now, but I won't do that because this is a conversation that we had all last season when we saw Bronny in person. There would be nights with Sierra Canyon, and should be said, they had 4 ranked players and guys who were seniors and guys who were All-Americans like B.J. Boston and Zaire Williams, and Bronny James came off the bench. Some nights he had the big performance in Columbus, Ohio against his dad's old high school, St. Vincent St. Mary, the steal and the go-ahead layup in the final minute, MVP of the game. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant flashes of what he can be. Just remember, he was a freshman last year, a freshman on the most high-profile high school basketball team in the country. And he played his role, and he played it well. But, Paul, you always dovetailed with that the idea that, let's remember, in the summer, when Bronny plays at his age, he is the alpha. That's what you have seen. And we can all expect that to be more of the case as he develops. He's going into his sophomore year. I imagine that his role will be bigger with Sierra Canyon this season. I would imagine that. Yes, they'll still be stacked, and who knows who they end up with by the time the high school basketball season rolls around. But Bronny will only continue to grow, and I absolutely love the quote that, Paul, you put in there when you compared Bronny at this stage to LeBron at this stage as a high school player. You saw both. And you were at Ohio State when you were recruiting LeBron very early before it became evident that he was going to go directly to the NBA. It was Bronny is going to run his own race. Let's all remember that. Don't try to force him into some kind of mold that he's not fit for yet. He'll still grow in both his skills, his game, and obviously his height. So give him time. He's going to develop.
Yeah, I think so too. And he impacts games, without scoring, which is really special at a young age. He does some non-scoring impact things that impress me so much. But I thought that his ranking was appropriate for where he is today and where he could be in the future. Now he'll take this and, it could slide up, it could slide down, but he's still one of the best players in his class. We're talking when he's a senior, right? They'll be top 100. We know he'll be in that top 100. We know he should be in the top 50. He's in the top 25 now. Can he get to the top 10? That's the question. I think he can because I think he has a great sense about self-awareness on who he is and how he contributes to the game. He has to grow physically. Skills have to get better. Handle has to get tighter. But he has upside in things that sometimes the average fan doesn't see, and I can see it. And it really has attracted me at this point.
Can you speak quickly to the number 2 guy you have? Because I know that was a lot of questions circulated when we posted those rankings, in particular, the gap between 1 and 3 with known, more broadly known guys nationally, between DJ Wagner and Mikey Williams as number 2, Jalen Lewis out of Bishop O'Dowd, I believe.
And Jalen Lewis, as well as Mikey and DJ, they're number 1 prospects. Make no mistake about it. I mean, somebody has to be 1, somebody has to be 2, and somebody has to be 3. But those 3 guys, to me, are number 1 guys. And how they'll perform over time, how they'll produce, they'll move accordingly. You can move down sometimes and nothing happened to you, but a lot of other players just improve themselves so much. Could be physically improved or skill-wise. Lewis is skilled, and he's athletic, and he's got size, and he's got feel for the game. I just like what he does in the paint, around the rim, face-up game, young age, talk to his coach. He's got great work ethic, high character. I mean, he's one of those guys that you see today that we talked about earlier with the Mike Fosters, Tabari Smiths of the world. Big, skilled, athletic, great work ethic, a humble kid. So he checked almost all the boxes to get that spot. And I think his upside is where he really can show off in time. So Zach, let's move to the Hoop Hall Classic. Maybe some scheduling for 2020, 2021. What can you tell us? You got any inside information maybe on some of the matchups this year?
Well, we can't totally divulge everything right now, but I think some of these you can expect all the usual suspects. I think if you were to talk about maybe the top 3, 4, 5 teams that have been active in acquiring high-profile, high-talent transfers over the past couple months, you're going to see all those guys there. We're going to have at least 2 of the number 1 players that you have ranked in the ESPN rankings. And a lot of the, obviously we weren't able to play Geico Nationals this year, but we are going to have a good handful of those teams that would have qualified. We did announce who was in line to be in New York with us. But it's as loaded as ever, and it's a 3-day event, I guess I should say. That's when the television on ESPN is broadcast. Man, I can't remember. Well, what was it? It was Sierra Canyon played twice, and it was just some kind of atmosphere. The only thing I think that really rivaled it was in Minnesota against Minnehaha. And I can only see it ramping up from here, just given the profile of guys and, from the West Coast, from Midwest teams. Yeah, I don't know if I want to get super specific. I don't know if I have the liberties to do that right now. But we are locked in, and I think everyone's going to be really excited about the teams that we do have playing on TV at Hoop Hall, as they usually are.
It's always an event. It is. I mean, and we do it every year, Paul. Right? First thing we do, we get the rosters and we count up. Okay, how many McDonald's All-Americans? How many ESPN 100, ESPN 60, ESPN 25 guys? And it's dozens every year. It's incredible in Springfield, Massachusetts, and mid-January that is always a highlight of our season.
Yeah, the Hoop Hall West is going to be loaded, but
yeah.
Hoop Hall Classic, all I can tell you is that Saturday night game, that primetime game, whatever it is, it's going to be lit, as the kids used to say. I don't know if they say it anymore, but you can expect a big-time matchup in that game. And then the 4 games on Monday, we get off the charts talent. We get the most high-profile team. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to finish up with this, and then Ted, I want to get a final thought from you. And Zach, to your question, Jalen Lewis, Mikey Williams. Now, Mikey scores the ball at a high level because this is a big debate. Why did you put 1, 2, and 3? Mikey, phenomenal scorer. He's not a point guard right now in my mind, but he scores the ball at a rate that's second to none. I talked about Jalen Lewis and his upside in the game with his size and skill and athleticism. DJ Wagner, incredible instincts, court awareness, the ability to handle the ball versus pressure, a pick apart, a defense, scores the ball at a high clip. And his high school coach at Camden is Rick Brunson. And Rick Brunson played at Temple. Rick Brunson played in the NBA for a long time. He coached in the NBA. And I recruited Rick out of high school. And I was at Boston College. He went to Temple. Shows you what kind of job I did. So, but, Rick Brunson knows the deal. And Rick told me, this kid is a high-level worker. He's got a high basketball IQ. And think about the lineage of his family. His grandfather, Milt Wagner, an NBA player and a tremendous player at Louisville. His dad, Dwan Wagner, first-round draft pick, played at Memphis. He's got it all. And he's a guy that I just put number one and our staff put number one because we just felt at this point in time he's got the slight edge over those two guys, and that's the reason why.
He's got a pretty rowdy fan base over at Camden too. I know if you're a team playing against Camden, you'll hear it from him.
Well, this has been fun, Ted. Thank you so much for joining us, and can't wait to get back behind the microphone with you for some summer basketball, maybe, and if not, then during the high school season. And Zach, you keep NEXTcast alive for who's next. So
yeah.
Thank you guys for joining.
See you guys
Paulie,
soon.
thank you. Always love talking ball. This was great. Really enjoyed it. See you guys soon.